Our essential question for this lesson is how do I solve factor puzzles? So today we're going to be introduced to factor puzzles. They may seem familiar to you from 5th grade, so this may be a review. First, I want you to take a look at some multiplication tables. I'm sure at some point in your elementary career you took a look at multiplication tables and used them to figure out, the products of different multiplication problems. Do you notice any patterns in these two different multiplication tables? What you probably notice is that table 1 has columns of multiples. For example, let's see, the 2 column right here has all the multiples of 2. It's like you're counting by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so on and so forth. Here are the multiples of 8. So if you were counting by 8s, you have 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, so on and so forth. In table 2, you see that same thing, but you see it in rows. So here's your multiples of 2, here's your multiples of 8. It's the same thing. Both tables are actually the same. They just have different color patterns. Something else you may notice about the multiplication tables is that on the outside of each table you have factors. Factors are the numbers that you multiply to get a given product. So if you weren't quite sure of your math facts and you wanted to know what 3 times 2 is, here's your 3, here's your 2, and you look to see where they meet. And there's your product in the center. So 3 times 2 is 6. You can also see that here. Here's 3, here's 2, and where do they meet? Right here at the 6. So the numbers on the outside are known as your factors. And of course, the numbers on the inside, those are all the different products, the answers for when you multiply with your factors. Now, if you take a look in your workbook, look at workbook page 5. Here we have a multiplication table that's not completely filled out. Just a couple numbers are in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out what the missing factors are and then figure out what that missing product is. So let's see, what factor do you think belongs here? Let's take a look at the numbers in this column. We have a 6 and a 21. So I'm thinking this must be the 3 column. And that makes sense because if you were looking at your factor row up at the top, 3 would, seem to come next in your sequential order. And let's see, this column, the missing factor, I'm betting is probably 5. Just because I know if I continue to fill that out, 5 belongs there. And 5 is a factor of 10. I can do the same thing with the rows. 6 and 10, let's see, the factor that I would need would probably be 2. Because I know that 2 times 3 gives me 6. That also makes sense for 2 to belong there. And down here, this must be 7. Because I know that 7 times 3 gives me 21. So now I have 3 and 5 as the missing factors on the top, 2 and 7 as the missing factors on the left side. Now I need to figure out what is the missing product, n. I need to know what is n. Well, this is 7 right here. Let me use a different color. Let's go with black. So 7 times 5, n must be 35. Here's my 7, here's my 5, and I multiplied them. N is 35. I can also finish filling in the factors on the other sides as well. Typically in the multiplication table you just see factors on the top and the left, but you could also put them on the right side and you could also put them on the bottom. Now what we're going to do is we're going to apply that same idea to a factor puzzle. I want you to think of a factor puzzle as just being a really, really small multiplication table. It just only has 4 products in the center instead of all of the different products in a multiplication table. And we're going to look for the factors that belong on the outside. So remember, factors on the outside, products on the inside. Let's see, 6 and 21. Well, if you remember earlier, we said that 3 was the common factor there. So I'll put 3 on the top and on the bottom. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but maybe I'll do it with rows. Maybe I'll do rows this time. Maybe I'll look at 6 and 10. Let's see, 6 and 10. Oh, here they are. That was the 2 row. So I'll put 2 in here on the left and the right side. And that makes sense because 3 times 2 gives you 6. Let's see, 2 times what number? I'm sorry, 2 times what number gives you 10? Well, that must be 5. So 5 would be on the top and the bottom over on that side. And let's see, 3 times what number gives you 21? Oh, well, that's 7. 3 times 7 is 21. And I'll put 7 on that side as well, which means our missing product must be 35 because 5 times 7 gives us 35. So the factor puzzle is just like the multiplication table, except you don't have all of those rows and all of those columns. You just have a smaller version of it. And you need to find common factors for your rows or for your columns to see if you can figure out that missing product. There's always going to be one missing product. So here are your takeaways. This is what I want you to start copying down in your notebook. At the end of every lesson, you will see these takeaways. So the first thing you need to remember is that multiplication tables and factor puzzles have factors on the outside. Products always go on the inside. And just to remind you what a factor and a product are, a factor is one of 2 or more numbers that you can multiply to make a product. So here we have 12 times 4 equals 48. Well, 12 and 4 are factors. They're the numbers that we're multiplying. And then the product is the result of multiplication. So 48 in this case would be our product. That's our answer to the multiplication table or multiplication problem.